the summer, our neighborhood finally makes good use of the flat white wall on the side of the big ugly post office that the government built years ago when it apparently anticipated that we would become a mail hub. The local community group, which is partially affiliated with both a church and a liquor store, bought a projector and shows family-friendly films by streaming the DVD onto that big ugly wall. The genius of this activity lies in the simple acronym BYOB. Adults bring drinks, the kids watch the movie, and then everyone stumbles home shambling drunk on a Thursday night. It's basically a mental holiday for the adults and the electronic babysitter for the kids, but it's also a great chance to drink, smoke, and chat with your neighbors, so I attend when I can. If this activity had an Achilles heel, it comes in the form of simply being a neighborhood and not a community, which can regulate who moves in. We had a couple from California move in a couple months ago. He, a skinny whitish nerd, and she being of olive complexion with dark eyes. They brought with them a tard, Gob Eel, who quickly makes himself known everywhere with his high-pitched voice. Gob Eel. His name is technically Gabriel. The couple are fanatical liberal Christians who believe in the prosperity gospel, which basically means you can lie, cheat, and steal, but not to members of your own megachurch. But he pronounces it something like Gob Eel. Seems to be a mixture of Downs, schizophrenia, and autism. He lives in his own little world, but he announces what is going on to himself in a stream of combined exclamations, Spanish, English, and Filipino with non-verbal syllables mixed in for punctuation. As an example, Gob Eel and his parents showed up to a community movie night last Thursday, and he immediately said, Don't ask me what it means. I don't think it means anything, other than a little tard song to say that he's excited about the movie, which no one but him cares about. But he doesn't know that, because in his tard world he is brilliant, since he knows only the tarded, being fully tarded is as brilliant as one can get. And everything he feels, thinks, or emotes is important and must be announced so that he knows it happened. Back in the cheap seats, where a group of us were sharing a case of the usual American sweet and urinary beer, no one really reacted. We mean well, us suburban types, and we figure that if Tard can enjoy the movie, we wish him and his parents well. We just want everyone to get along, have a good time, and then remember us when they need insurance, cable installation, or whatever it is we do. We live in small worlds, and have pretty much written off the rest of humanity to focus on our careers and keeping our children from taking drugs. The movie starts, something with Julia Roberts from a bootleg Blu-ray, and we focus on sotto voce comments about the film while keeping a half-lidded eye trained on our own Rugrats, who we hope will not do anything insane, criminal, or idiotic during this brief respite of alcohol and camaraderie. Everything is going fine until halfway through the fourth scene, a piercing and incredible loud voice pipes up. We all look at each other. What the fuck was that? Seems to be the reaction. We heard the mother shushing the tardlet, who I would guess is about 12 and 14 stone or thereabouts, and the father brings out some kind of rattle for it to play with. The next couple scenes, heck, I'll admit that the timeline was getting a bit fuzzy at this point, went by with a background soundtrack of rattle sounds and these little mumbling, belching murmurs from the tard. My neighbor Grant looked over and shook his head slowly as if to say, "You let one in the neighborhood," and I nodded. We might not be geniuses, kings of industry, or great humanitarians, but we have a quiet, friendly, orderly kind of place to live in, which seems like a small achievement until you see the rest of the world. Now, it had been invaded by some kind of tard chaos that we wished would just go back to California, but we tried to keep on with the movie, until the piercing voice invaded again. Oh, this was a question. The klaxon voice raised a little at the end. Now sweating, the father dug around in his pockets and, victory, found a bag of gummy bears, or gummies, and started force-feeding these to the tard in order to keep its little mouth occupied, and thus unavailable for speech. The helpless mother, probably simply useless in the rest of life as well, started foraging in her purse. A woman nearby, swaying from the influence of too many mint mango wine coolers, passed over a candy bar, and someone else found a package of lemon drops, and so on. Soon, the ritual was established. The tard burbled and sucked on candy until it ran out, then drunk adults handed it whatever they could scrounge to keep its pie hole disabled. Since these were drunk adults, we started just forking over any old crap we found in our glove boxes, toolkits, pockets that had been through the wash, and so on. The tard just kept on gurgling and glomming as it consumed everything, much as it had consumed any hope of us seeing this movie. This narrative is not intended to be cruel to Gob Eel, or the eel as we called him, because he does not mean badly. He is simply retarded, and his brain does not work correctly. This means that Gob Eel will always cause total fucking mayhem wherever he goes because, unlike us, he does not seek order. He seeks a world of Gob Eel, and it is a retarded and chaotic world which breaks every semblance of organization around it. We got to the crucial point of the movie without interruption this way, which meant about 40 minutes of cramming gunk into the tard. I really can't say that I was paying too much attention to the movie at this point, mostly just making fun of it, because like all romantic comedies, this movie was designed to make everyone feel warm fuzzies, and as a result it takes place on some distant planet where people with too much money and free time struggle over the basics of affection. However, I was hoping to have at least a normal movie experience, a hope which soon had its brain dashed on the rocks of tard reality when that strident voice, now sounding slightly concerned, called out, "You boop!" This should have been the moment when Tard Father and Tard Mother came together to cart the tard off the premises. Alas, it was not. They, like most parents, just wanted a break. They sought an hour where insane retardation would not make their lives into a living hell, and so they were halfway through their own whiskey sours and maybe that joint that always floats around the fourth row. It's Dennis. It's always Dennis. This caused them to gently gesture the tard off toward the bathroom, since it now had tummy rumbles after eating 45,000 calories of candy and snacks. The tard, sloshing slightly, padded off towards the porta-potty at the rear of the post office. Its path took it straight across our improvised screen, since unlike a normal person, it did not walk behind the audience, but in front of it. But then, suddenly, it stopped. A rancid gurgle floated through the air, and then a wretched burp. The mothers at the rear of the field stirred, knowing that sound. In one smooth motion, the eel flung off his shirt and dropped his pants. An unsettling smell, like a graveyard mixed with a garage methamphetamine lab, drifted over us. A strange and disturbing scent from another world, perhaps one of unspeakable horror. In the next moment, the eel barked and then blasted out vibrant multicolor vomit. At the same time, he farted and then spurted a thick yellow-green fluid from the rear. The stench proves indescribable to this day, perhaps conjuring up visions of week-old cat food, feeding time at SeaWorld, the bulging diaper you run over in the Walmart parking lot, and a dumpster in the sun after a dozen birthday parties and cabbage peelers discharged into it. A wave of unwell and disturbed feces and vomit mowed us down in olfactory form, causing gagging among those of us who had unwisely guzzled too many of the watery, urinary beers that they sell in America. As Newton would tell us, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Quite so. The reaction began with a small girl in the front row who, being in the splatter zone, promptly vomited herself and ran screaming from the field. The expulsion of stomach contents affected the next row, where 2 children vomited. The row after that, 4 more, and then a wave of vomiting people cascaded towards us in the rear. Grant took one look at me and hopped up out of his chair, bailing out in full panic mode while pulling his drunk wife Sandra, or Matilda, or something, after him. dodging the emesis exploding from people around us as the combined waft of diseased tarred feces, day-glow candy vomit. I fell over my folding chair chase, trying to escape the retching, and almost made it, gagging down my own rising gorge as the sights, sounds, and smells of regurgitation surrounded me. The tard, however, was feeling much better. Having voided itself of its unwisely consumed distractions, leaped up among us, streaked in the bright reds, yellows, pinks, and greens of garbage-tier candy, and danced naked among the convulsing movie patrons, like a satyr come to life in demonic lust for disorder. Chairs flipped, cars crashed into one another, and there was at least one fire. Community movie night was not only over, but dead for the foreseeable future. As we fled into the sheltering darkness of the night, away from the pooling indigestion and chaos, all we could hear was the siren song of doom through retardation, a piercing voice piping out into the night on a regular beat. Fate be muy go, as the eel danced his victory dance and sang his victory song amidst the cascade of disaster.